Hey guys!
I have to make stupid faces. Like, I just had to do that. I think that's going to be a thing now.
Welcome everybody to Xenia Bridge. Notice something special. Jen and I are all by ourselves, just like we were in the interview over on her stream.
This is probably just going to be us bullshitting. Like, just
a little bit.
It's us having a conversation and people watching.
We kind of have a program. We have a couple themes we wanted to talk about. Like, we really wanted to kind of get more into some of the women's rights stuff we were talking about, and like allyship between like atheists and polytheists, especially fighting for rights for people assigned female at birth, but also, you know, obviously trans folks and folks who are having their identities erased. But you
it's been a shit week of people, hasn't it? Like, there's a lot to cover because it's just been a shit fucking week of people.
It's been a lot, especially like if you take Twitter as any kind of red like metric for anything, then every week is a shit week for people. Like, that's just the way it is.
No, but it's been worse. It's been way worse lately. I think it's COVID and everyone's like cooped up and under stress, so like the worst of them are coming out.
You've already got an F-bomb counter.
A minute in.
This is definitely going to be a good stream. So you said that you had a story that you wanted to share to kick everything off. You had some interesting stuff happen on Facebook, apparently.
I have a social media stalker now.
Oh, you do?
Oh, I do. Excuse me. I've been outside all day with the kid because it's been like raining for the last 4 days, and it's going to rain for the next 4. So every part of my allergy is now in my throat. Which, hey, at least something's in my throat lately, but whatever.
Oh, my God.
So I made a post on Facebook about microaggression that's done towards women, where men will cut them off in the middle of a discussion or in the middle of what they're saying or in the middle of a video and be like, no, but this. And it's like, yeah, if you would have shut the fuck up, I would have, it would have been there. And it's not like carrying on for 25 minutes before you get to the point. It's like instant. So I've had about 12 men being like, what does gender have to do with everything? And can't have the volume up because of relatives, but letting play my allyship is well attention. Hey, Junk Shop. Junk Shop is
welcome, Junk
awesome.
Shop. Any like anything that you can do to help support the channel is very much appreciated. Many, many hearts.
Yes, so many hearts. Junk Shop is fucking awesome. Junk Shop and Julie.
We got some trolling in the chat.
Fuck you, Jim. Fuck you, Jim. Like, that's Jim Barrows. Jim's whole existence as my friend is to troll me.
So
this fucking idiot, this creepy fucking stalker piece of shit is like, what does gender have to do with everything? And I don't repeat myself. I don't. I just, fuck you. I don't. There we go. Oh, this one's gonna be good. He flipped out. Like, he started talking something about how he's such a good debater and logic fallacies and like crazy shit. And I, like, y'all know me. I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool story, bro. I'm not repeating myself.
So was this the fine specimen of completely undeveloped ego that you sent me the screenshots of a while back?
No, this is somebody totally different. So
How do you find them?
They find me. So I block him. His wife comes on my post, starts talking shit, block her. He made 8 Facebook posts on his page about me, about how much of a bitch I am and how much of a cunt I am, and he's making a video to come after me, all because I told him this argument has been covered. Check the conversation. Later, come to find out, he's extremely misogynistic and doesn't deal with men this way. And his wife seems very codependent and feeds into it. Between the two of them, there have been no more than 15 Facebook posts made about me in 2 days. He's come on my channel, commenting all over shit, all because a woman asked him. I'm like the fucking Pied Piper of assholes on Facebook. It's fucking amazing. All because all because a woman told him to reference a previous conversation about how gender plays into cutting people off. So if you guys start seeing videos in a flurry of, and he's like, I have the screenshots about how the conversation really went down. I'm like, the fucking conversation's public on my Facebook. Like 15 Facebook posts. The wife's friends are calling for people to protest outside of my house.
That's not a violation of privacy at all.
Yeah, like all because a woman told him to reference a previous conversation. Yeah, and he literally did the thing. He didn't read the whole post and commented. Like he literally did it. Got told he did it and flipped the fuck out. But he doesn't deal with men this way. Wow, 10 and 5 minutes, shit.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas we all cheer when Jen cuts off Ocean.
I mean, to be fair, if you can manage to cut off Ocean.
I think the last interview we did on my channel, it was nothing but just cutting each other off constantly.
I mean, to be fair, our interview was us cutting each other off constantly.
Yeah,
like,
but
this is just an ADHD thing. You get two people with developmental disorders in a room, and that is how conversation flows.
But it definitely dealt with the absolute microaggression, especially in American culture, of the little lady. And no, little lady, I can sum this up better than you. I had arguments that men process things faster, and that's why we cut you off, because it's just how our brain processes things, and we try to condense them. Bunk science about women speaking more words than men, and men don't know how to process it.
Well, there is an interesting thing about that. Women are more likely to add what are known in writing as junk words or processing words because we're more likely to try to emotionally appease whoever it is. So when you think of things like kind of or like or we are far more likely to use bits and pieces of those in our sentences, but we're also less likely to spend as much time speaking as men.
Yeah.
In other words, it takes us more words to express a point, but we
do it faster
to express that point.
Like
we tend to be a lot more nuanced with our language.
And then a couple of people were like, no, it's women that do this to me all the time. And I'm like, did you ever think that no, I haven't thought. I'm like, did you ever think that women may feel like they have to because they won't be hurt if they don't?
Yeah, it's like word vomit, and especially if you're a woman with a developmental disorder, which, hi, there are two people with ADHD in this space, and a lot of people don't think we have it. Like, part of the reason I stress that every single freaking stream is because how ignored people assigned female at birth, because I'm going to add the whole spectrum of gender identities here, people assigned female at birth are far less likely to get diagnosed with ADHD. We're more likely to be misdiagnosed. And we are also more likely to be socially punished for our symptoms. And when you add that to the men like to cut us off and we're more than happy to cut you off back, well, suddenly you're the bitch.
Oh, apparently this person has a problem with women who push back against him.
Duh. That was pretty apparent from, go protest outside her house.
Yeah, he's gone back and forth with men, but the minute I pushed back, I was a bitch, I was a cunt. I was uneducated. I was a child.
No, I had a thought.
No, I had a thought. By the way, I'm going to be scratching a lot. I got bit to shit being out with the kid today. So everything's like... And I was in nothing but... I was in a bikini the whole time because we had the little inflatable pool out there.
I noticed that you're wearing less and less of a shirt the further we get in.
It's fucking hot.
Like, you got a tube top on.
No, it's got straps.
Okay.
I mean, it's short, but it's got straps.
I know, it's just like your determination
it's fucking
to,
hot.
Like, middle finger the people who keep blowing at you.
It's fucking hot, is what it is. It's fucking hot.
I am in a tunic, like, that is what I'm wearing, and it is very, very light. It's
hot, and... I swear the older you get, the worse you process sweat. It just pours out of you. And I'm like...
We don't need to know about that. Like,
no, I said sweat. Reacting. I said sweat. Not...
Okay.
But I'm also insistent on wearing, like, fleece pants because they're comfortable. So I'm like, how am I going to counter this? It's regulation. It's body temperature regulation.
So apparently, go to Jen's Facebook page. If you go to Jen Aldrich's Facebook page, then it's public.
Oh yeah, it's public. It starts with, hey men, let's talk about a microaggression towards women. And it's 400 comments of men, not all menning. I'm not kidding. It's 400 comments of men, not all menning. 400.
I'm being told to get out of the gutter already. This is what happens when Jen and I hang out, unfortunately. And fortunately, I don't know, it depends on how much you enjoy that sort of BS. So, like,
but yeah,
that's very
400
similar.
comments of not all menning. And I had a few men, and I got a shout out to No Illusions because he just slaughtered these assholes. Like, Noah just, like, came in and, like, plowed the field of assholes. 400 comments of men not all menning. And that was the very first, like, you can tell they didn't read the entire status. Just as soon as they said, we need to talk about men cutting off women, they commented. So they did exactly what the status said they would do. I have, like, social experiments on my Facebook.
You can't even read the thing, right? Like, you can't even finish reading the freaking thing before you're cutting me off. Like, even the medium of text does not absolve you from that. And actually, I've got an allusion to that in my upcoming video, of which you have seen the script.
I have?
But, like, I have an allusion to that at the end, that there's going to be a whole bunch of not all atheisting in my comments section for people who did not finish the video.
And, like, people were like, do you come into Black Lives Matter post and be like, all lives matters? Like, do you do this on the regular? Because that's exactly what you did here. But it came from a comment on my Living in the Hunger Games video, and I got quite a few.
We got a request for a refresh of the F-bomb count.
We need a refresh. I actually got a few comments of, no, the kids are bringing it home, and I'm like, yeah, I fucking covered what's gonna happen with the kids if you shut the fuck up and just watch 5 more minutes, if that, into the goddamn video. Shut up. And here it is again. Oh, and I'm like, do you really think that because you have a dick, your fucking thoughts are the first time anyone has thought of them? Because it's exactly what you motherfuckers act like.
Okay, and so before we get a bunch of not all menning in the chat, which I know my audience is better than that, but I'm gonna say this for any potential trolls who are sitting there, just absolutely wetting themselves, waiting for a chance. When we're talking about men who do this, they do that, etc., we're specifically talking about the kind of men who do this shit. And whether you realize it or not, you yourself, as an ally, may occasionally be guilty of this behavior. I have been mansplained to by some of my closest friends, and then had to point that out. It is very, very frustrating. My partners have done it to me, and my partners are 2 of the biggest allies you will ever meet.
And that's why I wanted to make it clear that it was a microaggression. And microaggressions are so ingrained into everyday life that we don't realize we're doing this. We don't realize we're doing this. And you find it a lot with racism. Excuse me.
Oh, thank you, John Fallon.
Thank you, John. Oh, I think I know what that is. You find it a lot with racism. You find it a lot with dealing with women. And it was the utter refusal to see that it was a microaggression that blew me away. And yeah, people cut people off and women cut people off, and that's fine. I get that. But this wasn't the issue. The issue is that it's more likely to happen to women, and it's done in more of a dismissive tone to women because of the patriarchal structure that we live in. Yeah, fuck that though. Nope. They just saw men cut off women, and not all men, like the floodgates. And what I found really surprising, a lot of them are Sanders supporters. A lot of them came from the wave of Sanders supporters that had flooded my page a few months back. Oddly enough, they're also the biggest anti-mask people, which I find bizarre.
There's a lot of, so there are kind of 3 contingencies of Bernie Sanders support. There's a lot of, baby socialists in there, and some, mature socialists. So there are a lot of anti-establishment people, and those are the ones that voted for Trump when Bernie was not, didn't get in. And then you have a contingent of people who are supportive of something specific like universal health care, and are therefore more than happy to vote for a Democrat that talks about those same things.
Right.
And
But
so
it's
those anti-mask people are probably the anti-establishment people, because there's a pretty big corollary between the anti-establishment people
and the
who are
anti-mask
solely
thing.
there
Yeah.
to be anti-establishment. I'm not talking about people who have political ideologies that are anti-establishment. I'm talking about the contrarians who specifically are just
Who are,
like, you know what,
just
if an
like fuck
expert
the
says it, then
system.
fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah, just the fuck the system ones. But these are the ones that I've seen be the most transphobic. These are the ones that I've seen be the most anti-science,
Okay,
anti-mask.
by mature socialists, I mean people who have had a lot of time to
Me.
study and think about their like place within the socialist like spectrum, and are at the very least well versed enough to explain their beliefs without referring to memes specifically as their sole source, or without having to link you to a video and be like, I can't explain it.
I'm a mature socialist. Chris H. Bernie Bros are my least favorite people. Can we highlight that?
Sure.
Because, okay, actually, he is innovative. He didn't take most of his positions from a bunch of women and people of color who are proposing this for years. Bernie has been proposing these for, I'm 40. I'm almost 40. So close to 50 years. He's been advocating for a lot of these programs, anywhere between the last 30 and 50 years. So no, you're just now hearing about them. Is the issue.
Bernie has been in, in and out of like institutions and such, like trying to fight for these things for a very long time.
Right.
That isn't to say that women and people of color didn't, quote, come up with the ideas. I don't know the veracity of that claim, but women and people of color have advocated them. But, he's advocated alongside them. But
to say that he's not innovative and he's taken his positions from this and that, I've followed Sanders's career now 20 years. About 20 years. These are things that he's been saying for the last 20 years that I can remember. And then going even further back, these are things he had a voting record for and spoke on even further back than that. It's just, he's just now coming, people didn't give a shit what happened in Vermont. Nobody cared. He did. He got arrested several times. He was platforming for the civil rights movement back then. It's just nobody paid attention to Vermont. And this is a problem, excuse me, that we've had in this country is nobody wants to hear about a candidate until they make a national stage. Yeah. Chris H., do you mind dropping some...
Yeah, if you want to go drop some of those links, I will give you mods temporarily so that you can do that. If you want to drop some links for that, or if you want to drop some links in the creator section of the Discord, then feel free.
That would be great. Yeah. But as far as I've seen and as far as I know his work, he's been consistent about his platforms for 20, 30 years now. Yeah. Like that was a big selling point for me. And like I said, that's a big problem that we tend to have in this country is nobody pays attention to a politician until they're on a national scale, when you need to be paying attention to them when they're not, because that's where you're going to find the voting records. That's where you're going to find where they've spoken out about. That's where you're going to find what they put their campaign financing towards on a state level. That's the easiest way to find out where a candidate stands. You have to go back through their state records. You have to go back through when they served their states and see what they fought the federal government for their states. I'm going to check her out. Queen.
We can probably check it out afterwards. I'm not seeing as much just recently on Bernie. Like, I'm looking through it and I'm not seeing a ton recently on Bernie. So if you have a particular tweet that you can link us to, Chrissy, that would help.
Yeah.
By the way, Witch just put the link to the Discord in the live chat. We usually go after the stream and hang out in the after party VC over there on Discord. It's open to pagans and atheists. It is an allyship space, not just a pagan or atheist space. And we would absolutely love to have you guys there. But
and I'm going to be a bit of a bitch. Chris, when you sit here and say things like following a ton of legal historians, we're going to need more than just a Twitter account.
Yeah, if you want to link us some articles and stuff, again, like you have access to the creator area on the Discord. We would love to see that. Or you can post some stuff in debate, like either one, if you want to be able to let everybody review it.
Because like when it comes to voting records and candidate stance, this stuff is pretty easy to check out and backtrack, not from, and I want to see many different sources. I don't want to see somebody's personal view. I want to see actual voting records, when they took their stance, who they were working with, stuff like that. Yes, he is listed as an independent, but again, we're going to need more sources than just Mia.
That's fair.
Y'all know how I am on studies and shit.
I don't want to spend too much on just the single topic because we have a number of things we wanted to talk about tonight. But Chrissy, if you can find good sources for us, and can get us some links, then we're more than happy to take a look. And I'm happy to revise my position if evidence is presented to the contrary. I actually talk a little bit about that in my upcoming video as well. The idea of I would rather be educated than right. I'm happy to shift my position if you can present evidence to the contrary, and I actually will listen to you. Even though I've been a strong Bernie supporter and a Warren supporter for quite a while, Warren has kind of waned in my estimation in recent years. But for a while I was. Warren is actually what led me to Bernie, funnily enough.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was following her, and then she persisted, and a lot of that stuff, and that's how I discovered Bernie Sanders, was when people were pushing Warren to run and she didn't. Bernie Sanders came up as, he's even more progressive than she was, and I ended up working for his campaign for a bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was more I was just a volunteer. I did voter registration at HempFest in 2013 or 2014. I can't remember which year.
Oh, that is awesome.
And it was. I also did, I'm trying to remember. I also did, bridge flagging, bridge bannering, where we had this gigantic thing holding up and signs and stuff, over.
That's an up north thing. They never do that down south.
Oh, yeah. But we're, if you get a permit to do it, you can do it here. And, the organizers of the group that I was a part of got the permits, and we just showed up, and we were bodies, and that's what we were there for.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've done a bit of campaign work. I've done some phone calling, phone banking, voter registration, which was hard in the South with a candidate that's pushing universal health care. That was...
Yeah, but it's the most essential work in the South, right? Because
it is. It really is.
In the greater Seattle area, I'm not changing that many minds. In fact, the year that, it wasn't 2013, 2014. It was probably 2011, 2012, actually, now that I think about it. But up here, we voted overwhelmingly for Bernie during the primaries. 80% in the first time that he ran. I didn't change a ton of minds with the work I did. I just got more voters into the system to help them keep making that decision.
Yeah, here is you've actively got to change minds.
Whoa, what's up? Cyrus is in the house.
Cyrus. Oh, it's good to see you. Are you feeling better? Are you feeling better? Please tell me you're feeling a little bit better. Aw.
Yeah, so, midstream,
Cyrus, they probably do hate me, so, that's fair.
Midstream bomb, 53 watchers, but a little over half the likes. Y'all just hate sending Kai. Come on, guys, we can do better. Unless you're driving, then, don't.
Then just, leave it there, please. But, doing voter campaigns and voter registrations in the South when you have a candidate that's universal health care, universal preschool, around a bunch of people that I'm convinced that we're not rich here, but I wonder if they vote for GOP candidates and they vote for these bootstrap candidates that maybe they're hoping it'll happen for them and they'll be that much closer to these kinds of people if they go with.
Well, there was policies. And I want to go back to women's rights in a moment, but there was a really interesting essay that I read forever ago that basically stated that every poor man in America, especially the white ones, sees themselves as a dispossessed millionaire. They vote against their own interest because they see themselves, because of the myth of the American dream, which they don't call it a dream for nothing, guys. They see themselves as somebody who could climb up the ladder and be that one in a million chance. But the problem is it's one in a million, and that means by current population estimates, that's 100 people that
possibly
could ever do that in their lifetimes.
And this was something I came across in entertainment a lot, where you got a lot of kids in, and they all thought they were going to be famous. They all did, and some of them were really good. Some of them really good talent. However, it's a 1 in a million shot, and you found a lot of that displacement there, especially amongst men, not even amongst women, but men in the entertainment industry.
And Cyrus also brings up a good point. There's also the history of conservatism. Like the Southern strategy was a real thing. Like the Southern strategy reshaped American politics for generations.
I'm going to shoot it to you in private chat so that you can shoot it over into the comments. There, is an article that I came across. I think it was something like the 7 or 10 separate nations of the United States. And if you guys ever wanted to really break down why things are in certain areas of the country and why they're different, this explained it beautifully.
Tap, 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 tap.
I know I'm so loud. The U.S. has 11 separate nations. Yep. It was written in 2018, and it was one of the most... God damn it, it's a fucking ad blocker. Fuck you. Like, what? Fuck you, Business Insider.
Wow, you did that just as our the F-bomb counter was falling asleep.
Okay, NPR redid it. Thank you, fucking NPR, because fucking Business Insider, dick. Oh no, it's
Well, and Cyrus brings up another good point while you're trying to get that to work. Whether middle-class nobles kept the monarchy in power in order to maintain their own power, since the peasantry needs to stay fighting for the middle class to maintain its small power. This is very much the case. Like, we have the equivalent of a feudal system in the modern day. We don't necessarily think about it that way, but we do. And if you think about, like, when I talk about there are crumbs that fall off of rich people's tables, and the middle class gets the biggest crumbs, and the lower classes tend to fight over them, but everybody fancies themselves as middle class, and everybody fancies themselves as a dispossessed millionaire. Chances are, if you think you're lower class, or if you think you're middle class, you're probably not. There's the article in the chat.
It's behind an ad wall. I'm sorry. That was the only thing I could find that really got into depth about it. We have no choosing. Fuck you. Sorry, I get super irritated with.
But yeah, I did put that link in the live chat if you guys want to check that out. But that is an incredibly good point. Like the Southern strategy, coupled with the inherent way that capitalism restructures things, which, again, like somebody's going to tell me to put the bread down in a couple minutes, but hear me out. Like, we all inherently know that by considering yourself middle class, whether you are struggling to pay for a tiny apartment or whether you happen to be renting or own a house, and if you're lucky enough to own a house, then good God, you must have tried to have bought one before the 2008 fucking crash, man. Then, like, the vast majority of us, even if you make a quote-unquote middle-class income, if you live in certain places, that's probably why, first off, and second, it's probably not enough.
Oh, fuck.
And that's a thing.
Do you see Cyrus right now?
We do not need almonds with which to make full loaves.
But I referenced this in my in the Hunger Game video. I'm like, you just making enough to get Starbucks once a week is not working for yourself. It's a fucking illusion for you to think, oh, look, I'm doing well because I can afford these very tiny things for myself. No, where's the bulk of your fucking money going?
Well, and where's it going? And then the upper classes like to shame us for that, right? Like my generation in particular, we like to treat ourselves with tiny stuff. There are whole articles about like minimalism and things, and it's not because we have a bunch of shit we need to get rid of. It's because we need to feel better about how little we have.
Yeah, fucking God forbid somebody fucking eats avocado toast once a fucking month. How about you fucking how about you take down a goddamn Jeff? Like... Decommission a yacht.
You also get these articles where they're like, oh, well, you can buy lobster and steak on food stamps, and it's like, so?
Hold on, can you highlight that comment from Jim Barrows? Because I'm going to drop a couple of truth bombs on this. Housing is expensive simply because supply isn't keeping up with demand, partially because no one wants high-density housing in their neighborhood. I'm going to give y'all a quick education on gentrification. And why?
I'm going to add things to it as well, because there's at least something that I know is going on in my neighborhood that I know is at least a trend in the Pacific Northwest. It's the Chinese company thing that I told you about when I was ranting the other day.
No. This is exactly what I'm getting on, except in New York it was Middle Eastern. This is exactly what I'm getting on. So, I come from New York City, which is the test subject for gentrification and jacking up rents. Do you all want to know why and how this happened? I'm gonna put you on. So, what businessmen do is they buy up a bunch of buildings, they buy up a bunch of houses. A lot of the time they take them from Section 8 holdings from the state and then give the state more money, and they buy it from the states.
Okay, so we need to clarify why they do this. So this is specifically when the stock market is doing badly. This is where investment will shift. During like bad markets, you will get real estate as a securing of finances from worldwide companies.
No, but this happened with a good market with New York. This happened with a good market.
Well, this happened during both stock market crashes, both the most recent one and the last one, here in the greater Seattle area.
New York, Chicago, and Miami.
Spirit brings offerings of bread. Bread for the bread god.
New York, Miami, and Chicago actually were happening when the stock market was good. So this is what they do. Especially when you have major cities that have high density, like Jim had noted, high density housing, apartment buildings, stuff like that. They buy up these apartment buildings, usually from slumlords or people looking to get out, and they buy up a whole bunch of them. They'll also hit up Section 8, like Section 8 subsidized housing, and make deals with whatever city is managing them. They kick everyone out. They refab these things to luxury living condos, luxury living homes, stuff like that. And then they sell them to overseas businesses and keep them vacant so that it's nobody's actually, they made the money for it. Nobody's actually living in them. And they're just left. But that decreases the amount of housing that you have, therefore driving up the cost because of driving up demand. And that is step one on how you gentrify a city.
Sorry,
that's exactly what they do. No, hell, can I get some hummus with that bread? Or like
olive oil, a good quality olive oil.
Yes, I actually have some in my fridge right now. Like, I actually think I'm going to go dipping into that later. Or, like some beer cheese would be great.
But coming back,
but no, exactly. SBs. That's what. Hold on, but SB said it. That's what Fred Trump Sr. did. This is what happened with Trump and Bloomberg with New York City's gentrification. It was Trump. It was a host of Middle Eastern businessmen, Middle Eastern real estate firms, and Michael Bloomberg, who got together and did this in New York City. Trump is known for this in New York City, and that's why I lost my mind when he was. I know, right? Oh God, that's so good. I have that. I have it in the fridge, but. This is what Trump did. And this is why I freaked out when he ran for president. Because I'm like, y'all are talking about how he's going to be there for the common people. He literally bought housing projects. Like, he bought subsidized housing projects from New York City, kicked out low-income families, made them high-rise condos, and then sold them to Middle Eastern businessmen who keep them vacant. The city literally sold him housing projects. This happened all through... like Coney Island, Brooklyn. This happened Rockaway when Hurricane Sandy hit. Instead of rehabbing these houses for lower income families to move back into, they sold the properties to Trump and higher end real estate business firms and never gave these people relocation. They kicked them out.
Well, and there's a version of that was happening when we got our house, because we were lucky. We got our house on a short sale. Which, for those of you who don't know, a short sale is generally when somebody is either in the process of foreclosing or going through a divorce.
Yeah. And
They just have to get rid of the house. And a lot of the time it means that it comes with a lot of problems, which our house did. We've had to replace the roof recently. The water heater was jerry-rigged 2 units together with a smaller unit that worked and a larger unit with a larger tank that did not. And that burst the day we moved in. There were lots of problems with this house. Like, when I talk about, there are lots and lots of external problems in my home, like, walls and stuff. A lot of it is the fact that we haven't fixed that stuff yet because we've been busy fixing the structural problems. But we were able to buy a house valued at $250,000 at the time for $225,000 with a $15,000 down payment on a fixed rate mortgage.
Oh, wow.
And that fixed rate mortgage, because it was on the tail end of the '08 crash, was decent. Thankfully,
because nobody was going to take adjustable rates right now.
Well, and my husband's in a union job, so that's the only reason we could have afforded that. I was in a union job at the time as well, but then I got injured. But my point being is that in my neighborhood, one of the things that we noticed was a lot of our neighbors got foreclosed on because of the shit that was going on with the housing market at the time. And what happened was about half of those houses are still fucking vacant.
Mm-hmm.
And our handyman has talked about how Chinese companies, and I'm not being like, oh, but Chinese people are bad. But
No, they're from
companies that I've
China.
taken
Yeah.
an issue with up a lot of these houses and are just sitting on them as material investments because U.S. bonds are becoming more unreliable and because the stock market is so unstable right now. So they're buying up houses and they're just sitting on them as investments. There are tons, and this also has the effect of reducing the supply so that demand outcompetes it because they're just sitting on these empty houses. If you're talking about what a fair market value is, I'm currently living in a housing bubble. My house has gone up $100,000 in value, which is a bad thing if you're not fucking moving. My house has gone up $100,000 in value in 8 years.
This started happening with Chinese companies late 80s in New York City. Mainly Queens, mainly Long Island. Flushing Main Street in Queens is an Asian neighborhood. It's very much, it's Queens' Chinatown.
Well, and
it came out from there. They started buying up the houses. The Chinese companies started.
Can I give an interjection really quick? We've got a lot of people coming, like, talking about states where there's not a lot of either heavy urban centers or a ton of, like, tech activity or other, like, white-collar work. When you're talking about states with lots and lots of empty houses, usually that means that the urban centers there, like, they aren't centers of a lot of the white-collar industry. Part of the reason why these companies invest in expensive houses in white-collar industry areas is because they want somewhere to plant their fucking money. Like, that's all they want.
Yeah.
That is what they're doing it for.
And that's what happened in Queens.
To have the house. They're not doing it to have the house. They're doing it because of the city.
It started in Queens where it wasn't. So Queens is kind of set up like, here's Manhattan, here's the river, and then you go further out and then eventually you're attached to Long Island. And the further out you go, the far more suburban it gets. Like, the more you go out to Whitestone, you go out to College Point, Floral Park, you're not going to see high-rise buildings. They're houses, backyards, stuff like that. And Michael, this specifically was happening with Chinese companies in New York City. That's why we're saying, what if they're Japanese? This was specifically happening with Chinese investment firms in New York City. They wouldn't park their money in the houses and the high rises towards the city. They would go out to the white collar neighborhoods and start buying up houses there and parking their money out there. And then eventually it started moving more towards the city. But that's where they started. They started in the more white-collar, suburban, higher-end areas to live in, higher-end, more quiet areas to live in the city. That's exactly what they wound up doing. Yeah. Like, I was supposed to move to Texas. Like, this month. Like, I was supposed to move to Texas like this month.
Yeah, for anybody who ever thought that China was actually a communist country, this is part of proof to the contrary. Like, China is a managed capitalist economy. That is what it is.
Oh my God, science side up though. Yes, Vietnamese food is fucking amazing. So is Thai food. Like, holy fuck.
I cook a bunch of both. You've seen lots of photos.
I know. But I miss, like, they don't really have good Thai food places here. We've got a couple of good Japanese steakhouses. The Chinese food is your general kind of everyday small Chinese food shop kind of place. But we've got some good Japanese steakhouses. We got a couple of Thai places that are kind of shitty.
State-run capitalist. Yeah, that's what a managed capitalist economy means is state capitalism. Poorly managed or not,
I'm actually going to get a cup pop after this. I think I'm going to order a cup pop now.
So you said that you also wanted to talk a little bit about women's health care, because that whole getting cut off and being talked over that we start with actually really ties into that. We talked a little bit in our last interview over on your channel about horror stories, which when I told my mom that I had told her story without mentioning her name, she was absolutely thrilled. She was like, well, it's a true story. I'm proud of you. And then she nagged me for a link to my channel. And I was like, but the algorithm, first off, ...
Oh, Mom, the algorithm.
I mean, yeah, like...
But this kind of ties into not taking women seriously and cutting women off, too, and not listening to them.
Well, and like in healthcare especially, women are at an extreme disadvantage. Like, we are not listened to. No. Like, even if your husband comes in, and I'm saying this as a hypothetical married woman, if your husband comes
I'm saying
in and
this as being there from a former married woman, yes.
If your husband comes in and explains your symptoms, like mansplains your symptoms to the doctor, regardless of the gender of the doctor, they are more likely to believe him.
Yeah. It happened to me. It happened to me when I was pregnant. fuck, my pregnancy.
Okay, Keurig, the PRC is definitely fascist. They are extremely fascist.
They're extremely fascist. They are like fascism. I was getting these rolling contractions 7 months. That was just after my 7th month. And I go in, and is for the fucking doctors, like, it's Braxton Hicks. Now, for those of you who don't know what Braxton Hicks contractions are, they're practice contractions that your body does that are unproductive. Legit. Like, your body will just start contracting and it's not productive, and it's just like, just preparing for when. It's shit. But I'm no.
It's a workout for your uterus.
It sucks. But, and it's terrifying, right? So, like, I was like, this shit is, and they normally don't last very long. It's usually like, a couple minutes here, maybe half an hour there. But, like, I was like, yo, this shit's been going on for 2 hours. Something's fucking wrong. And they were coming closer together for me. They were starting to come close together. And we get to the fucking maternity ward of all places. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm trying to explain to the doctor, they're coming closer together. They're coming closer together. I have a high risk pregnancy.
Daisies, as a fellow fat quote unquote girl, because sometimes I'm not, I completely, that's a mood.
Yeah. And like, I was a high risk pregnancy. I had a less than 5% chance of carrying to term, which I didn't. And I'm telling the doctor, no, I know this is different. Well, you're a first time mom. Yeah, granted, but it wasn't my first pregnancy. It wasn't until my ex-husband had to time the contractions with the doctor there to show him how close they were that they decided to check me out and preemptively stop my labor. Now, had my ex-husband not done that, I would have given birth to my son at 7.5 months.
And I shared my horror story back on the other channel. I'll share it again here for those of you who haven't seen that interview. But like, for me, I had fat girl syndrome compounded on woman syndrome. I went into a gastroenterologist back in 2018 because I had the worst food poisoning you can ever imagine. It lasted for an entire freaking month. Yeah. Both ends, everything was horrible. And the gastroenterologist that I finally saw after a month of me and my doctor trying to figure out what the ever-loving fuck was going on with me, which, keep in mind, this doctor was a saint. I loved her. I miss her. She retired last year, and it broke my heart because, like, I have never had a better doctor who listened to me. She was an old woman and having none of anybody's crap. Like, I loved her to death, and she was the one who found my thyroid issues and a whole bunch of other things that nobody else had ever listened to me on. But, like, for this, we were stumped. We were at the point where she was like, I think your pancreas just isn't producing stuff for you to digest fats because I don't know what the hell is going on with you. And so I got sent in to go see a specialist. This specialist dismissed the fact that I had been dealing with an entire month's worth of these symptoms, said that I had to have been lying, and tried to convince me for an entire hour to get weight loss surgery while using my husband as a guilt trip mechanism. Ooh. And I had to wait for another month to see a second opinion, and then it was several more weeks after that before we finally got the test that revealed my celiacs. But because of that, and because of the fact that I was on the brat diet that entire time, bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast,
which is everything wrong.
Needing blood transfusions. I ended up needing, like, significantly longer recovery time, all because one jackass decided that because I'm fat and have XX chromosomes, that means I'm not worth listening to.
So when I was heavier, I was getting ready to go out to go get coffee with some friends and felt like I was having a heart attack. My arm went numb. The whole side of my head went numb. I was short of breath. So I called an ambulance because I was like, I legitimately think I'm having a heart attack at 36, 37. And I get to the ER and the doctor was literally like, well, you're overweight. So that's probably it. And I'm like, doc, the side of my fucking face is numb. Like, the side of my face is numb. This has nothing to do with my weight. Well, your weight's too heavy for your frame. Doc, I'm sorry. I know many people who are overweight.
I'm bigger than you ever got, and my face is not numb right now.
Yeah, their face and their arms don't go fucking numb. So it took, like you said, months of getting second opinions. Finally get a fucking MRI done. I have a bulging disc in my neck that's sitting on a nerve. And that's what caused the numbness, because it's sitting on that big-ass nerve right at the base of your neck that goes all through your head and down your arm. Mm-hmm. That's what was happening. I had a bulging fucking disc. And no, but I was heavy. If I just lost the weight, I'd be fine. So now I'm looking at fucking neck surgery now to fix what's going on here. But yeah, you know, my face is going numb. My arm is going fucking numb. Like literally the side of my head was numb. I couldn't feel my tongue. I couldn't feel anything on this side of my head. I'm just, if you just lost the weight, you wouldn't feel like this.
We are currently at more than an F a minute still.
Yes.
That's right, though, but we are still at more than an F a minute.
Yes.
But in terms of, like, this is one of those things that keeps coming back to allyship. Because, to be honest, like,
what I want to touch on, too, is this happens a lot with reproductive issues. A lot. Like, I had adenomyosis before I had my hysterectomy.
Gaius, I'm going to remind everybody, if you
God.
have celiacs, it is.
Shut up.
Just saying. If you don't have celiacs, it is just a fad.
It is just a fad.
If you do,
and I feel for you because I've tried to eat gluten-free food, like gluten-free, like breads and cookies and shit.
Like if you do not have celiacs, being gluten-free is just a fad. If you do, it is literally life and death. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that, because of the gluten-free fad, in much the same way, like it's a blessing and a curse. There are a lot more gluten-free options that exist in the world. Yeah. But people don't take cross-contamination near as seriously.
That's a big thing.
It's the same thing with dairy allergies. Like, people see vegans in a negative light, so if you ask for an alternative milk, you are 50% likely, if you have a dairy allergy, to still get milk, even if you ask for one, because people don't take allergies seriously. And celiac is not a goddamn joke.
No, and I have severe lactose issues, and this is why, like, I get a lot of things that have milk added to them. I won't ask for an alternative. I'll take it home or have my own on me so that I can, because I know that they're going to cross-contaminate it. Oh, goodness, guys, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, too. My husband and I both have it, but thankfully, with him, it got caught early because his dad had it, and so I forced him to go in and get tested, and then he tested positive. With me, I only have half the genetic background I'm supposed to have a flag for it, and the other half of my genetic background has barely been studied by anybody for anything because there's like a couple thousand of us. So nobody had any idea that I could possibly have it, but it also, when I got diagnosed, it shed a lot of light on the fact that my grandma died of intestinal cancer that had spread all over her body by the time they found it. And half of my family talks about feeling tired after eating quote-unquote carbs, which in my family generally means bread, pasta, etc. So I've been urging people in my family to get diagnosed, and of course a lot of them aren't, but you have to have 2 copies of that gene, and it needs to get activated for celiacs to happen. Once that happens, you get incredibly
you're on the run. And this happens a lot, sadly, with reproductive issues. Like I said, I had adenomyosis. There's a reason you guys are probably scratching your heads. Everyone knows what endometriosis is. Endometriosis is when your uterine lining grows outside of your uterus onto other organs.
That's what happened to my mom.
Yeah, it kind of wreaks havoc. It can grow onto your bowels. It can grow into your ovaries, everything else. Adenomyosis is when your uterine lining embeds in your front uterine wall and stays there.
Well, and guys, just to clarify, I was not calling celiac a fad. I was saying gluten-free dieting outside of celiac is a fad. And unfortunately, it drives me freaking crazy because, again, I am far less likely, and my husband is far less likely to get our request for gluten-free taken seriously because of the fad dieters.
So yeah, the uterine lining will embed. It will move. Jesus Christ, I don't even know what just happened in my house.
If all you were eating was meat, Clara, then your mom did it wrong.
Yeah, no. It'll work its way into the front wall of your uterus and embed itself there and never leave your uterus. So because of this, your uterus becomes misshapen, and when a woman has her period, you cramp to get rid of that uterine lining. However, this uterine lining is embedded in your uterus and will not leave, so your body doubly cramps on top of having a larger, misshapen, and now bruised uterus to try to get this lining out. It's extremely painful. It's extremely fucking painful.
And this is why, by the way, Gainer, I express it as a wheat and barley allergy half the time, because when I say celiac, most people don't know what it means. If I say gluten-free, they assume I'm a dieter. I express it as a wheat and barley allergy.
Yeah, you have to express it as an allergy. It took
Even though it's not, it's an autoimmune condition. It's a lot more complicated and deadly than an allergy is.
It took 6 years for me to find a doctor to give me a uterine biopsy to figure out what the fuck was going on. 6 years. 6 years Xanax was thrown at me. I was to take Xanax a few days before my period. And it's just because it's just your period. You're overreacting to how bad your cramps are. You're being oversensitive.
Oversensitive.
Yeah.
That's one of those words. We need to talk about the word over fucking sensitive.
I got told I'm not taking Advil or Pamprin properly. And I'm like, no. So I have a severe reaction to narcotic pain meds. I can't take them.
I can't take them either. Specifically, opiates make me hallucinate.
Yeah, same. And I get like I pass out. I lose consciousness. I throw up. So, yeah, right. Like, it came to the point that once I did find a doctor that can figure out what the fuck was going on with me, I was on Toradol once a month just to even manage the pain. Yeah, you have a low pain tolerance. And I'm like,
if you guys want to hear a story about pain tolerance,
I'm like, bitch, I've been stabbed. I've been stabbed in the leg.
I fell down the stairs in Chicago in 2017 and fractured my foot in 2 places and sprained both of my ankles. The people in the ER, because it was so swollen, they couldn't see the fractures, but I limped on 2 fractures in my foot, one in my heel and one on the top of my foot, for 3 weeks before the internal bleeding started again, and I went in and they found them. But I had told everybody that I knew for a fact it wasn't just 2 sprained ankles. They made me limp home with no pain medication.
Yeah, I was stabbed in the fucking leg and managed to walk to get help. I have been hit in the head with a bat and was still conscious and laughing. Don't fucking tell me about my fucking pain tolerance, you cunt. So, yeah, he wound up putting me on Toradol once a month. And Toradol is an after surgery only NSAID. This shit is so powerful, you can't take it for longer than a week or it completely does irreversible damage to your kidneys. This is what I was on for fucking cramps. So he gets in there, he figures out I have adenomyosis. My uterus is twice the size that it fucking should be because this has been going on for years. My ovarian sacs are covered in scar tissue, and what was supposed to be a 2-hour surgery turned into 4.5 hours because of the amount of cysts and the amount of polyps that were in me that he had to remove. So I got a fucking surgery, right? Waking up, I do the crying from fucking anesthesia thing that I always fucking do. And they go to give me Loratab, and I'm like, I can't fucking take this. Like, I can't fucking take this. I just had my fucking abdomen ripped apart. I can't take this. Well, that's all we have. I did that recovery on no fucking meds. Don't fucking tell me about my goddamn pain tolerance. Don't.
Yeah, my mom and I are both like that too. Like, my mom has the most ridiculous pain tolerance. She has a degenerative disc disease in several of her vertebrae. And, like, it got to the point where 2 of her discs were grinding on each other because there was nothing left. And she didn't get the surgery for months. And she had no pain medication for that because she, like me and all the other women in my family, it's unique to the women, mind you. The men don't seem to have this. I don't know what the hell it is. But all the women in my family have this genetic quirk where if we take opiates, we hallucinate. It is literally the only time in my entire life I have ever hallucinated is when I'm on opiates.
Not for me, but it wasn't a pleasant trip. This happened with my mom. My mom was overweight. My mom was born with a birth defect where her hip had like an extra bone growing out of it. I will punch a bitch. Exact. And I came close to saying that. Her hips all fucked up. Like, she was born with her hips off line and off center, and actually one of her legs was shorter than the other, to the point that she had bars between her legs when she was a toddler to kind of straighten out her hips and everything else. The cat has a toy. Don't worry about it. We always knew that her hip was an issue.
There's another one laying on your bed, it looks like.
Yeah, that's Fred. Fred's finally fucking sleeping because I gave him dinner and now he goes to bed. So her hip is going and going and going. She could barely walk most days. And they're like, oh, it's because you're overweight. It's because you're overweight. So she finally finds a fucking doctor to like look at her shit, right? She's using a fucking walker at this point almost. They found out the ball socket to her hip had died and collapsed in her body for 7 months.
Well, and what's really sad is, again, a lot of the times doctors don't listen to us until we're at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah,
Like,
and they
insurance
still weren't
companies
listening to her.
especially are very, very pissy about
Excuse
covering
me.
anything with women. There has been consistent like bias. There was a study I read forever ago that I need
Yeah.
to go find again that basically stated that if there is a female-looking name on an application for benefits, they are more likely to like decline the offer,
deny it, yeah.
including if the name of the doctor is female.
But yeah, like the ball socket, your hip ball socket. Her hip ball socket died and collapsed. The bone died, deteriorated, fell in on itself. She had no cartilage between the bone and her actual hip for 6 to 7 months before somebody took her. We don't even know how she was walking. And this doctor said, oh, you have a low pain tolerance. She has a dead bone in her body and she's still walking. But she has a low pain tolerance.
Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's also that, like, maybe, you, like, one of the X chromosomes is dominant and none of the men have inherited it, because there's a chance of that. Maybe there's something that's, like, the interaction between the two X chromosomes. Like, who knows? There's any number of things that can cause a woman to express a disease that a man does not.
Yeah.
Gaius actually brings up a good point. If there's any mental disorder involved at all, I have been told that I'm making, symptoms up and or fixating on them because of my ADHD before.
Yeah, I got told that with my cramps, I'm making it worse because my ADHD is causing me to fixate on the pain.
That is what I was told as well about my foot. And then I demanded, when I went into an urgent care to get my foot scanned, and they looked at it and they were like, oh yeah, you've got fractures in 2 places and there's a chunk of your heel that's currently sitting on the top of your foot.
Yeah, like the doctor that did the hysterectomy, I remember the term in the medical file.
Night, SBs.
Good night, SBs. Globular and boggy.
Hey, can we get a fire salute in the chat for bedtime for SBs?
Yes, let's get a fire salute going. Yeah, my uterus was described as globular and boggy.
That's kind of scary.
Globular and boggy. But I'm just fixating on the pain. You're giving me fucking Xanax, which was great to sleep by, and I'm telling y'all, the day my son moves out of the house.
Gloriously ironic. Not just because of who it is, but that is just gloriously ironic in general. Because vertigo, of course, it's in your fucking head. Like, where else?
I know, right? Me and my son have short tubes, like short inner ear tubes. We have inner ear issues. So motion sickness and vertigo is extremely, like, I still have to take Dramamine at 38 for motion sick. It's terrible.
Well, and yes, this is the other side, actually, guys, of people who, other people would perceive as men, assigned male at birth, have a much harder time getting treatment for PTSD, anxiety, or depression. Women, like people that doctors would identify as women, get overdiagnosed for these things. People doctors identify as men get underdiagnosed. Oh,
or you get the flip side of, hey doc, as a woman, hey doc, I think I have anxiety. Hey doc, I think I have depression. No, you're just being emotional. Yeah, right. Where else does vertigo exist? In my tits? I actually had a doctor, like, because I knew something was off. I'm
right,
25.
We are officially in the memories portion of the conversation.
Like, I'm 25 and I'm still getting like terrible motion sickness, right? So I'm like, doc, the fuck? And he's like, oh no, it's like he tried to explain some shit like center of gravity in my body for me. Like some really bizarre shit. So it's like literally this doctor's trying to tell me that my vertigo's in my tits. Like literally. That he was like, it's your center of gravity and you should have outgrown this as a child. So he told me I had to do core exercises to shift my center of gravity so I would stop having motion sickness. So he literally said my vertigo and my motion sickness was in my tits. I'm not kidding. Because I'm like, I get vertigo, I can't. Well, your center of gravity and this, and I can tell by your posture, and I'm like,
I need to get a train sound effect. Just be like, all aboard! We are all hopping on the train to Bamburyland. Last call for Bamburyland.
I'm like, what are you gonna do? Rub crystals on my nipples next to try to heal me this way? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, no, stop. Yeah, Sam, exactly. That's not even how it fucking works.
Okay, if we ever decide to do a merch for Xenia Bridge, this is going to be a Xenia Bridge merch. Also, your camera has decided it's no longer going to work for a second.
There we go.
Wiggle your tits in the cameras. Ooh, that's what to focus on.
It works. Yeah, like, and Jim, I reported him to patient advocacy. Right? I was like, what? Like he started with.
You said
Yeah,
the magic word, which
that's
is now
what I was
angry.
like. What are you gonna put crystals on my fucking nipples to try to fucking heal me this way? Because I mean,
I
and
don't know.
Eliakai, you just watched Save, so you'll know this. What is crystal healing other than just something that's overly felt up?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's you just watched this movie, so you know. It's really just a felt up. I don't know what is going on with my kid upstairs, but I'm just pretending like it's not happening. It's nothing bad. He's just being loud, and I'm just.
So my cat is may or may not start crying or purring or anything else. She has decided to grace us with her presence, and I cannot close the door because it's too hot in here.
You've heard the shit that goes on in my house. I mean,
Oh, your cat's awake.
yeah, Fred's up. Fred. Wow, fuck you too. Okay, shit. Wow. Yeah, with BPD. Yeah.
Yeah, borderline also
that
known-
happened with me, where I had
so
PTSD and they tried diagnosing me as BPD, and I'm like, no, like there is actual shit that's happened here. I was in fact bipolar with ADHD and complex PTSD, but they just blanketed me as BPD.
So I'm going to say trigger warning for anybody in the chat who has who has borderline personality disorder, because my partner has it. So when I'm saying this, I'm not saying this because I believe it. I'm saying this because it's a trend. Borderline personality disorder has gotten the nickname crazy bitch syndrome or crazy ex-girlfriend syndrome because of its constant overdiagnosis in women who have other problems.
Yeah.
But PTSD presents a lot of similar symptoms, especially things with codependency in people who are assigned female at birth. And I'm really trying to use AFAB and AMAB language when I'm talking about this, because some people who are AFAB who do not identify as women still deal with these exact same prejudices. Because if the doctor's going to identify you as something else, they're going to treat you that way.
Yeah. If they doctors very heavily rely on gender assigned at birth. Yeah, is the kid screaming? No, I could tell if he's hurt. He's laughing really loudly and cheering, and I'm just like, there's a time and place when you pick your battles when you have a kid, and this is not one of the battles that I'm gonna have right now. It's not. It's just.
Well, and on the subject of AI, I'm Mikkel. I'm not really sure which pronouns, please, if you can help it, because I'm not sure who this corresponds to. That's actually interesting because they found that AI, because of the programmers, has a tendency to have problems, especially when you're talking about driving AI. They will save a white family over a black family, and they recognize white people as human over black people.
Yeah.
So AI has the same biases that we do, which is screwed up.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. AI is only as good as its programmer. You have to remember who's programming the AI.
Well, and it's not even just that. It's also when you have it say go to the internet, look at the majority of the images on the internet and who puts them there.
Yeah. And look at the differences in bias, to where if a white man kills somebody, they use his high school yearbook picture, but if a black man does, they use his mugshot. And it's actually been found with black males specifically that the media will darken pictures and add shadowing to their pictures to make them appear more sinister, to where with white men they'll actually lighten shadows under their eyes. They'll shave off things under their chin. They'll shave off shadows to make them seem less sinister. This is an actual thing. This is an actual and the biggest display of it was, I can't remember when, but it was O.J. Simpson that Time magazine did it with. And they, I think it was his mugshot picture. And Time magazine heavily shadowed it. And
your wish is my command, House of Chimeras.
Wait, what wish? I don't think it came up for me yet.
House of Chimeras said that they wanted to look into that.
Oh, okay.
And so I was saying, here, your wish is my command.
But and Time magazine actually got called out for this. That I think it was and the Dylan Roof. Those were the two. O.J. Simpson was. I think it was when he released the book If I Did It. It might have been around that time.
So those two, I gave you one from the Independent, and to show that I was not just using a biased source, I put one up from Forbes as well, which specifically talks about racial bias overall in AI systems.
Yeah.
It is very, very hard to get racial bias out of AI systems.
But yeah, they did it with O.J. Simpson. I think it was right around the time he released the If I Did It book. They took his regular mugshot, which was surprisingly, LA's got some really good lighting for their mugshots, like really fucking good. It's trippy, but they shadowed it and made his head look like he was going from here to here and like sinister looking up from his eyebrows. And they got called out for it. And then it started like this whole thing where fuck, how about that? It started this whole thing where people started noticing that media outlets were creating shadows on black men to make them look more sinister. And
well, and also media outlets are more likely to use like mugshots and things of that nature rather than smiling pictures.
Right,
which I ran face first into that when I was doing my very first video here on the platform by myself, which was the Ray Comfort video. I had to dig to find smiling pictures or family pictures of the victims, and not just mugshot type pictures or pictures where they're glaring at the camera. Like, I went out of my way to humanize the victims in my video, and it took work to find images that were not just mugshots.
Gaius put up the Central Park 5. So I was a kid when the Central Park 5 happened. It was actually one of my earliest memories. The Central Park 5 and the Challenger disaster are my two earliest media memories. And that's exactly what they did. Now, mind you, the Central Park 5, they were fucking innocent. And I'm going to just note that Donald Trump pulled out a full-page New York Times ad calling for their fucking, like, just calling for their guilt and calling for them to be locked up. They were innocent. But they did this. They used their mugshots. The person that does the pictures in the courtroom.
Weren't there also allegations of, like, bullying, coercing, and lying to get them to confess?
Oh, yeah, that was rampant with the NYPD in the 80s. That's what the fucking NYPD did in the fucking 80s. Like, the NYPD was more of a bully than any fucking gang running the street in the 1980s, and shit still is. But the guy, the person that does the sketch art for courtrooms, that person, if you look at the white prosecutor was always seen face on, high light shadows, very warm, very welcoming. But if you look at the sketches from the people who were on trial, they always had their heads hung over. There were huge dark shadowings under their eyes, under their chin, and they had always had them looking up at the judge through their eyebrows. And if you look at court sketches, that's common. Like, people, like, they will actually release court sketches to the media where a black person who's on trial is looking at the judge like they're going to kill them. This happens all the time. Sketch artist. Thank you. That's what it was. Thank you. Oh, Donald Trump is a massive racist. Like, he is a massive racist. But and it gets worse for women of color. And what the media also likes to push in,
and especially trans women of color. Like, trans women of color are often put in male prisons and denied their hormones.
Yeah.
Sometimes even post surgery, like, trans women will still be put in male
Rikers Island had a trans woman killed while, I believe it was in NIC. I believe it was at NIC and they actually, God, this pissed me off that it came off like this, but they created the gay wing at Rikers, because they had so many gay males and transgender women dying at their prison. And the way that they covered it up was because of the AIDS crisis.
Jeremiah, can we get a citation on that?
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
Gaius Rikers is, speaking from personal experience, both as a guest of the city and having most of my Rikers is not a supermax. They do have a lockdown facility in NIC for high profile targets or consistent behavior problems. So let me break Rikers down for y'all. All right, so Rikers Island is a prison system in New York City. It's on an island. It's a series of 10 jails on an island. Rikers Island is where you are held during trial for New York City, or if you are serving a sentence that's under 1 year. One of those prisons is a women's prison. One of the wards is an AIDS ward. NIC is used for medically fragile prisoners, high-profile prisoners, and prisoners who are a consistent behavior problem. JATC, I believe, is an adolescent prison for males that are 16 to 18, and they became so at max that they actually used former Staten Island ferries to create barges and create prisons out of those. There's 10 different jails, one women, which held the pregnancy ward, one for medically sensitive. They had a gay ward at one point. I don't know if the gay ward is still running, but they are 10 separate prisons. One OBCC looks like a supermax, but that's only because it's like new. It is not a supermax. They do not lock people down 23 hours a day. You're actually pretty free to move around for most of the day.
Comrade says 30 to 35 according to Glad.
You're actually pretty free to move around during the day. Like generally at Rikers, unless you're in NIC and you're in lockdown for whatever reason, but it is not a supermax prison. We do have one in New York. I believe it's called 5 Points, and that is an exclusive male prison, if I'm not mistaken. Rikers is not private. Rikers is run by the city of New York. It's always has. New York really doesn't have a lot of private prisons. No, Gaius, Rikers is city. Rikers Island is a New York City detention facility. When you go upstate, which is why, okay, so when you get convicted in New York City, if you have more than a year time, it's considered state time. If you have under it, it's considered city. Rikers Island is owned by the city of New York. Rikers Island is run by the New York City Department of Corrections, to where the prisons upstate are the New York State Department of Corrections. We have two different departments from it. Yeah, New York is fucking wild. We used to have.
We're going to be having Frustrated on the channel
fairly
soon to discuss some interesting topics.
We will be.
And I don't want to go too deep into the prison stuff, just because we were like prisoner rights.
Yeah, it
and healthcare is freaking terrible. Also,
there you go, Allie. There's some juice.
Thank you.
But Rikers Island is actually in the process of closing. They're going to be closing one prison a year to wind down and reopening. Each borough used to have holding facilities that they wound up closing and wound up just moving everyone to Rikers at one point. But they're going to be reopening the borough facilities, and because just of the insane amount of problems at Rikers Island, they're actually going to be closing one jail a year. And over the course of 10 years, they're going to be closing down Rikers Island and either putting high-rise condos or a nature preserve on Rikers Island. Funny story about Rikers Island. Back in the day we are
gonna get way deep into the prison problem, and we still have at least two of the topics we wanted to talk about tonight on the docket.
A funny little story about what we used to do, though. Rikers Island is right off of Queens, where LaGuardia Airport is. Here's LaGuardia, here's Rikers. And back in the day, before aviation standards had come up, we used to sit and watch and see if the planes would hit, like as they're taking off, if they would hit the tower at Rikers, like the communication tower at Rikers, to see how close it would come.
Hey guys, we got a NASA shill in the chat. Everybody knows that Australia is imaginary.
Yeah, Australia doesn't fucking exist. It's behind the wall of Antarctica. You know this. Yeah, Comrade, it's probably going to be fucking condos. But we actually do have two nature preserve islands in New York. Ward Island, I believe it's Ward Island and Hart Island. Ward Island, they don't allow people on, and they just allow kind of fauna to flourish and animals to flourish. So, I mean, it's not, New York City isn't that bad.
Okay, guys, for anybody who don't know, we're memeing. Like, one of my best friends is Nervardia. She's actually going to be on next week, assuming that her job schedule does not get in the way of that. So far, she seems to think we're going to be. But yeah, we're going to be talking to Nervardia about allyship and science communication, because Nervardia is a science communicator and a caretaker for folks with disabilities.
Frustrated Atheist, no, it's not it. New York State has a complex prison system. I believe it's something like 15 or 20 prisons throughout the state. Rikers Island is solely a 10-facility prison. It's the largest prison complex, I believe, in the world, and it's solely in New York City. It has nothing to do with the state.
So we had said that we also kind of wanted to touch on anti-theism a little bit because
Yeah,
we've both got
we did.
upcoming projects on
Which is, but
anti-theism.
no, which is funny that you brought that up because of what Sovereign Soul said. Because that's actually part of anti-theism. There was actually an argument about holding religious prayer services over the unclaimed dead at Hart Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Hart Island is a potter's field for New York City. This is where they bury their unclaimed or destitute dead. They put them in individual pine boxes, and they do dig a mass grave. And it's actually the inmates at Rikers Island that handle the burial and.
Okay, Michelle, I think, again, let me know if I'm mispronouncing that. No, that would be Jen. Jen is lizard people.
Yeah, I'm lizard people. Nervardia lives in the place that doesn't exist, and I'm the lizard people.
Yeah, Nervardia is a chill. Get your people right.
Yeah. It's actually the inmates at Rikers Island that handle digging the graves, that handle the burials, and that handle the services. And with COVID happening, and this is where Hart Island got a lot of attention. With COVID happening, granted they're going to need to use the facilities. They're going to need to use Hart Island, especially with the amount of people that New York City had lost to it. And people got like super up in arms, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. They've been doing this with Hart Island since the 1700s. Just shut up. Fucking research shit. But usually,
Michelle, if that is adequate, that's fine. I keep wanting to say Michael, because I default to Greek pronunciations right now because I'm learning Greek. So apologies.
What will usually happen is they'll say a small prayer, or they'll have a chaplain from Rikers Island come out and just kind of say a small Christian or Catholic prayer over the ceremony of anyone being buried. And a couple of people did mention, they were like, we don't know a lot of the time who these people are, let alone their religious designation. So they felt it was unfair to have a prayer said over a potter's field. And I was like, this is fucking atheism gone ridiculous. Like, it's something nice to do. It's something fucking nice to do. It's just, they're paying inmates 10 cents a fucking hour to bury dead bodies exposed to fucking COVID-19. Or just in general, because you don't know what the fuck who's been, they don't tell you.
So would that be Michiel then? If it's Dutch, would that be Michiel?
Michiel? Better late than never. But yeah, like, there's just shit surrounding all of this. You've got pine boxes with numbers scratched on them that they catalog by number, just in case they do find the family can come and claim the body. By an inmate that's probably still on trial, or is being held for fucking parking tickets or some dumb shit like that. Somebody who just couldn't make their bail is being paid 10 cents a fucking hour to bury random people, not knowing what could be coming off of these bodies, because they're not lead-lined coffins, they're pine boxes that are made by the New York State prison system, actually. Is a fucking prayer that bad? Is it really, like, what's the fucking problem? What's the fucking problem?
You don't exactly have to pray along. Like, you don't have to pray along.
And you know what? The majority of people from New York City are Catholic or Christian. They're living a shitty fucking life, burying unclaimed dead bodies, being a fucking inmate on Rikers Island.
Hey, if other religions are allowed to have their own prayers for those burials, then I see absolutely no problem with it. Like,
no, it's like, it's not even a denominational prayer. It's like a generic prayer.
Well, it doesn't even have to be denominational. I'm just saying, like, if other religions are allowed to have their own prayers, then I'm totally fine.
Yeah, but they have different kind of holy
as a pagan
people.
Then again, as a pagan, like, pluralistic society is very much what I aspire to, rather than a secular society.
But it was shit that atheists didn't need to be fucking outraged over. I subscribe to I'm dead, I'm fucking dead. Yeah, oh no, someone prayed. I'm dead, I'm fucking dead. What do I give a shit about? I have no fucking consciousness. I'm dead. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you pee on yourself and do a fucking dance. I don't give a shit. I'm dead. I'm dead. What? Yeah, we can't have human fucking dignity or just a nice fucking thought because it's religious. If they're atheist, they don't give a shit. They're dead.
I mean, if there are rights for atheists to not have prayers done at their at their ceremony because it's within their will, then that is fine.
Yeah, but these are unclaimed dead. These are unclaimed or destitute dead. This isn't like people who have family that their last wishes are known. This is a mass grave of unclaimed or destitute dead. It's a mass grave. And they're saying that, yeah, funeral rites are for the fucking living. They're saying that a chaplain from Rikers Island or... Yeah, we have assholes screaming about praying for the fucking dead. It's a mass grave of bodies that had no family, that couldn't be claimed, bodies that couldn't be identified, or people who were too poor to afford a private burial ceremony. It's a
Rilla,
mass grave.
I will say, Rilla, that within Hellenism, that is not entirely true. Funeral rites are as much for the living as they are for the dead within Hellenism. Because if you don't get your passage and you don't get the correct burial, then Karen will not take you.
Right.
But then again...
But they're arguing this from an atheist point of view that, well, they didn't believe in God, so that why should somebody be Atheists don't give a shit. We're fucking dead. We're dead. We don't fucking care. We don't fuck it. We're way past 100 now. We don't care. Like, I understand COVID's got people antsy and just looking for shit to fucking complain about. Bitch, this ain't it. This ain't it. Be happy that we're not back in the 17 fucking hundreds and they're not just throwing the fucking bodies into a fucking literal cardboard box with no identification, nobody there, and it's a shit fucking city worker. Be happy that the fucking city has evolved enough. Granted, we're using prison labor and that shit's fucking slavery. But be happy that somebody gave a fuck enough to think about somebody. Be happy that somebody fucking looked at
that's kind of a funny thought, but no, I don't think that the
the
anti-theists think anything about that. I think that they have a problem with religion being any sort of part of civic life.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of silly to me, which again, like, I think that religion should not be a part of government proceedings. I think that all religion should be equally a part of government proceedings, or none of it should be. I think that legislating religious morality through the government is wrong.
Excuse me.
Like, I think that is wrong. But I also think that free religious expression is important so long as it is not abusive or harmful to practitioners. And I think that if you're going to include any one religion, you must include them all.
Science side up, not you. Sometimes they'll ask the family in New York City. Sometimes the family just doesn't care. They'll literally say, the morgue will call them and they'll say, hey, we have this family member, where can we release the body to? They will give the proper name, proper identifier, proper name, proper identification, and say, we don't have the money for it to be released privately, please have a city burial. And that's it. That's all they do. They then become a number. The box is loaded on a truck. It's loaded on a boat, sailed over to Hart, and then put it on a truck, and they become numbers. So there's no way for whoever is burying them to know. There's no way. The city itself keeps records, but for the inmates burying them, they don't know. They don't know who these people are. They're just numbers. So there is no way. Like, there's no markers on the coffins to determine if somebody was a Christian, if someone's an atheist, or whatever. But can't you fucking smile and be like, hey, that's super nice that this person doesn't have anyone to speak for them in their death, and you're willing to, and you don't even know them. Can't you just be fucking nice? Can't you be? This is what we're gonna fucking fight over. This shit. Okay.
Well, and to be honest, like, when it comes to this sort of thing, I can understand the desire to remove religious experiences from public things, but when you're talking about the dead,
a sovereign soul, what do you mean knowing what Christians would like to do with your ashes? They're not cremating people. They're putting them in a coffin and they're burying them by number in mass grave. Nobody's cremating fucking anyone. Nobody's doing shit with your remains. They're literally they're paying inmates 10 cents a fucking hour to bury them in the ground.
Yeah, Frustrated Atheist and I had a fantastic conversation about this earlier.
Oh my God, right? Like, fuck this shit.
Yeah. He was one of the kind people who helped me out with my script, and like took a look at it, and thank the gods I was able to get at least a couple of different atheists to take a look at it, because being a woman TM, as we were talking about earlier, getting talked over and all those other things, there's also a prohibition on how I'm allowed to talk. Mm-hmm. I took a very specific tone in this. Now, I know you are going to set everything on fire with your video, and I know that you're going to probably
I actually am going to be kind of more reserved.
Yeah, so you're going to get it.
I want this to come across as
reserved.
Yeah, I want this to come across as more educational and understanding than
I say woman TM because, again, that's how I'm always perceived, whether no matter where I am on my gender fluid spectrum on any given day. Today I'm on a femme day, so I'm happy about that. But sometimes you'll notice that I'll be reluctant to refer to myself as a woman, and that's part of the marker of how you know that I'm on a they day. But yeah, like as far as the tone goes, I tried very hard in the upcoming video, because my upcoming video is an open letter to anti-theists, effectively. It is we share as, polytheists and atheists significantly more in common than any of us do with the very people that made you so angry at religion in the first place. And you've read the script, you've seen it, and so have several other people. It is very much an ode to the work that we do here on Xenia Bridge, and the reason I started my channel in the first place. It is. But it is also kind of a call to showcase why these things are harmful, even if you don't realize they are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is there are some anti-harm or anti-superstition, which is the term that Ocean prefers, is anti-superstition.
Yeah, I'll still fight him on that one. I'll still fight him on that one.
Like anti-superstition or anti-harm, I'm treating those as interchangeable for the purposes of this discussion. Yes, but I am always a Leah Kai TM. Yes, I am.
Yes.
But like when you're talking about allyship, when you're talking about respect, even anti-harm or anti-superstition folks will still sometimes slip into anti-theist tendencies, because there is that tendency to group religions that way. And unfortunately, you really can't just do that. Not just when you're dealing with pagans. I'm not special pleading here, but sometimes even when you're dealing with certain Christian denominations. You go talk to my buddy Science Side Up, and you're going to get a whole different set of
you go talk to a fucking Episcopalian. Okay. Talk to a fucking Episcopalian. You're going to have your ass on your forehead. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, well, that's what Maddie is. Which, speaking of which, we're having Maddie on in 2 weeks.
We're having Maddie
on. I'm so excited
for that. And for those watching, that's Noodles. That's Noodles wreaking havoc. Poor Fred. Fred just wants to, like, sleep.
Yes, you have been noticed, Maddie. By the way, guys, for those of you that are on my Discord, down in Chill Place, Maddie actually started releasing content again recently. She's been very proud of herself. Go check it out, please.
I like sitting there outside. I forgot how sitting out in water all day, how tired it makes you.
It really does.
It felt good to do, though, because it's going to rain for the next 4 fucking days.
But coming back to the topic of anti-theism, I don't think folks always realize times when they're engaging in that sort of behavior. But like one of the things that we're planning on having Russ on for, and one of the things I talk about in my video, is you can accept the very simple concept that it is okay to believe things based off of personal experience without giving up any of your lack of belief or any other parts of your identity.
Jamaica, am I saying that right?
Jeremica.
Not Noodles and Pie, that's Fred and Noodles, but their mother is named Bagel. So Noodles and Bagel.
Yeah, my cat is named Luna. It's based off of the way her face looks, which I've sent you pictures of her. You know what her face looks like. Luna's she's gorgeous. My rats, on the other hand, are both named after they're named after famous horror movie like protagonists. One of them is Ripley.
Oh.
Yeah. So that should give you an idea of what I've...
Yeah.
And the other one is Connor. Connor is the escape artist and is way too damn adventurous for her own good.
Yes, we know that. We do know that. Ripley, I like Ripley. And Luna's beautiful. Noodles, Fred, Darcy, and their mother is Bagel. So, yes, Gaius, those are the cats. Noodles, Fred, Darcy, and their mom is Bagel.
Yeah, Jen has been getting labeled a traitor for working with me on this show.
Yeah, and speaking out about anti-theism and telling atheists to calm their fucking tits.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about the community as well. I don't necessarily want to name names because I don't like bringing drama onto my channel. However, we have been seeing kind of a rash of certain kinds of behavior recently that I think is important to discuss. I'm just applying some critical thinking to the conversation while
I'm just asking questions.
Yep, while asking some incredibly inflammatory questions and causing a hell of a lot of problems for the group that you are supposedly asking these questions for.
I need alcohol for this.
I mean, again, we're not naming names. We're not attacking anybody. People who are familiar with the conflict know what we're talking about. I'm not calling any one person out in particular, but I would like to talk about that idea of the so-called logic and rational thought and the tone policing of the way certain conversations need to be had. Because this is a major problem that is currently going on. This is not a problem that does not happen in the polytheist community. This isn't a problem that we don't have, but this is a problem that... we are seeing a lot currently in the
a frustrated atheist's comment right before that was great. I had to mute my mic for that. Sorry, he's fine.
It's kind of like the feelings that I have on street epistemology, which I may or may not make an entire video on at some point. That's a thing that, will be a question for in the comments of my next video if you guys really want to see me do that. But it's the same sort of thing. You're asking questions that you think you already know the answer to, and you're framing them in such a way that it's nearly impossible for you not to be taken in a bad light. So let's have a conversation about that. And it
read a lot as confirmation bias for me. That the series and months of the series and months of these behaviors honestly read as confirmation bias for me. That's what it read as, regardless of what this person may state now. And
what I found this isn't even person. This is plural people. There have been a number of people doing this. I'm saying that not just to deflect from a particular person who might be very visibly doing it, but I have seen a number of creators do this over the past several months. And not just creators. I've seen a number of just general, Twitter buttholes do this in general. But think about this. If you think you're collecting data, there's a whole thing about biased sample size. There's a reason why most people who do surveys stand out on street corners. Why? Because you're going to get a plurality of people doing that, especially if you stand out on multiple street corners in multiple neighborhoods with multiple different demographics. If you're doing it off of something like a Twitter following, chances are most of the people are either going to agree with you or they're there just to disagree with you.
Right. And you're not a fucking scientist. Stop trying to collect scientific data on questions about the inner workings of fucking biology that you wouldn't understand if I slapped you with a dick labeled gender biography. So stop. Just stop. It bled as confirmation bias to me. And then when backed into a fucking corner all of a sudden. Now, this person never stated their position, would just ask these questions. Jesus fuck, kid. Would just ask these questions and would never state a position. And then attempted to, I forgot what it's called, but it was a rule. They tried to cite that a certain rule meant don't argue somebody's position if you don't know it. And it was not what that meant. It was actually about a floral and nature diversity the further north you go in latitude, which was fucking funny. But he never explained his position until he was forced to.
Well, and again, this is not just one specific person. This is a number of people that I have seen do things like this. And it's something that we do need to talk about. Because when you're talking about community self-policing, I call out pagans when they pull this stupid shit. There's not a lot of people in our community that do. But when we see folkists, because most of the time it's folkists, sometimes I've got to give it to you guys.
You guys shield walled me from focused amazingly well. You're no. Like, I have yet to actually come across one in the wild because you guys have already dealt with it.
Oh, go check out my Twitter feed. I have dealt with a number of them.
Yeah, like
I
it's
got
already
into a
handled
fight with a
before.
bunch of- I got into a fight with a bunch of Hellenist focus the other day. And that was not the most fun. Like, yes, they do exist. It's dumb because like Hellenistic society throughout the ages has been extremely pluralistic.
Yeah,
But like
and extremely diverse.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, coming back to the fact, like these sorts of things, this is not an honest way to approach a question. A poll which you create the answers to, mind you, like people who design polls in the wild TM, like people who do actual studies, there's bias that are attached to the way you even phrase questions. There are people who study this stuff as their major just to design a proper poll.
Yeah. Like, this is an actual job that people are paid as a specialty for, is just to design proper polls for proper studies. This is just a job.
Yeah, we deplatform focused. Like, focused
Yeah,
are
like,
the kinds of people that we deplatform.
I haven't come across one in the wild yet, and I think it's largely because you guys handle it before I even, like, get a chance to breeze across it.
Well, and this is where, you know, and this is where, here's the thing that drives me freaking crazy about this, is if you react with any level of emotion, you are accused automatically of having bias and of not treating the person fairly. But if the person is discussing the very essence of what you as a human should be allowed to do with your body and your life, suddenly you're the one who's not being fair by taking an issue with that.
Yeah. And then one specific person was extremely honest in their discourse and had twisted my words to fit their narrative.
Oh yeah, if you really want to find focus,
Sure.
like there are more heathens than there are any other recon faith, and the heathen focus tend to be the most visible.
Yeah, I mean, bring them to
I'm
me.
not saying there are more
heathen
heathen focus, because percentage-wise, there's probably about an equal percentage of focus in all the different recon traditions. There are
right,
just
but
more
they tend to
heathens
be
than
more
anyone
vocal.
else.
Yeah, they tend to be more vocal. And yeah, if you want to bring them to sacrifice them to me, I'm like down. But in Minecraft, granted. But this person, when everyone here knows, when you're going to be obtuse and evasive, I'm going to hold your ass to the fire. It's what I do, and I do it well. When I asked very direct questions of this person, they took my words, took them out of context, and attempted to restructure my wording to fit their argument.
So witchcraft, in my experience, has less of a focus problem and more of a turf problem. Correct me if I'm wrong, What the Craft. But in terms of dealing with this sort of thing, it's difficult when you are tone police to the point where so much as arguing with their point is being told that you're being unfair.
Yeah,
but,
and
like,
I had my words twisted to fit this person's narrative because I asked questions they could not get out of and had to state their position if they answered the questions. That told me everything right there. And that happens often with, especially dealing with trans rights, with trans visibility. I don't know if visibility is the right word. But this happens a lot. When you try to find people, when you find people who are being very evasive about being TERFs and they won't directly come out and state their positions, if you ask them questions that they have to state their position on, they will twist your words or leave the argument. Every time.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the Socratic method. The Socratic method is the best way to like unearth this stuff, and it doesn't take very long if you know how to ask the right questions.
I will admit I weaponize the Socratic method. I will take full fucking.
But I mean, it's a good faith thing. It's a good faith thing, though. Because
I'm not doing it to be a dick.
Well, if the person is an asshole, their answers will reveal that. If they're not, then their answers will reveal that too. If you ask the right question, then they can absolve themselves with their answer. If you ask a leading question, the way that you often get with certain like branches of things, then you're going to get a leading answer. But if you ask a proper question, you can give them like the ability to expunge themselves versus not.
Or ha ha ha, let's do this joke. Crucify themselves.
So, what would you say is the biggest problem currently facing your side of the community? Because right now, the biggest problem facing ours is, apart from persecution, because people freaking hate us, and we're getting hit harder than ever with the Trump administration being as dickish as they are. But like the biggest problem I think in the pagan community right now is cohesion. We're having a lot of struggles finding each other, and we're having problems with focus. Like folkists are coming out of the woodwork because racists are coming out of the woodwork everywhere because they've been empowered by Trump. That's our big problem right now.
Yeah. The digging the heels in the ground view for atheism.
Daisies, my server or Ocean server, the Hold, would both be fantastic places to ask. We have chat rooms for every different pagan denomination that is currently present in the server. So the link is over in the description. If you want to join and ask questions, then there are lots of people who can answer them for you.
I think the biggest issue that the atheist community is having now is we're finally policing it, and there's a lot of weeds to get out of the backyard. So, and this generally happens when you start policing a community. We're pulling people out of the woodwork, and people are taking sides, and goddamn fucking Mike. But atheists have a tendency, especially, and I'm not all atheisting here. More prominent ones have a tendency to dig their heels in the ground, and even when presented with other evidence, other points of view, will not budge from it. And they do a very evangelical thing of canceling and admonishment. Now, when somebody's consistently doing shitty things, then yeah, fuck you, you're done. But it's very much a guilt by association. You know this person, and this person said one bad thing, so therefore you're somebody that should, be taken out with them. Or this person has done a series of bad things, and even before they get to the other people, it's like, well, you're with them, so you must have known this was going on, so you're gone too. There's a lot of echo chambers going on. There's a lot of islanding, is what I like to call it, where you get a whole bunch of people in one group, and it becomes an echo chamber, and then they burn all the bridges around them.
Which is kind of the opposite of what we promote here. I mean, our name literally is the Xenia Bridge.
The Xenia Bridge, right? Right, and Mikhail, yes, one bad thing does not a bad person make. However, if a person does one bad thing and looks and turns around and says, I don't think what I did was wrong, then that's bad. But if they look at the one bad thing that's not a pattern of behavior and says,
I love all of the pagan swearing that's been going on in the chat all night. Like, you guys are glorious.
It's wonderful. But if you look at like the one bad thing that you did and say, hey, yeah, I was fucked up here, let me take another look. Cool. If you're consistently doing bad things, fuck off. If you have a bad thing
called, love you.
Right? But there is no atheist community.
Hot take.
Actually.
The atheist community only.
No. Michael Koenig. No, Mikhail. I'm sorry. That wouldn't be a second bad thing. If we're dealing with the one bad thing, and if you look at the one bad thing and go, I don't think this was a bad thing. I don't think that I need to change this. I don't think I'm a bad person for it. And this usually leads into the "this is just how I am" conversation. Fuck off. That's the biggest thing to me. If you can see the shit that you've done wrong and take a look at it and look to examine it, I'm fucking cool with you, and I'm good with quote unquote redemption. But if you're gonna dig your heels in and be like, I don't think this is shitty, and I'm not gonna change this shitty behavior, then you could take that shitty behavior away from me. Even if it is one chance, one shot. But I do leave room for a change. I do leave room for redemption. Absolutely. I'll keep my distance.
I mean, I've known people who have actually redeemed themselves. Like,
Yeah.
I've worked with people who have actually redeemed themselves.
Yeah.
But like
I'll keep my distance for a while.
So we are, yeah, of course. And, that also doesn't mean that you personally have to let them redeem themselves in your company.
No,
Like,
they're
you don't have to stick around somebody while they themselves up. It is perfectly healthy to distance yourself from somebody who is being abusive.
There are people in the atheist community I won't work with. I will not work with them, due for both personal and professional reasons. I don't go around too and say, well, if you work with this person, you can't work with me, or if you're cool with this person, you can't be cool with me. That's another big ass thing. There's a lot of side taking.
Yeah, like even me, I have a couple of people who have hurt me very badly in the community. It's not public knowledge at all, but I don't like the few people that know about it. I've never once said, if you still associate with this person, then I'll judge you. Like, I've never once said that. I've told everybody, if you want to still be friends, that's fine, but don't invite me and that person onto a stream.
Yeah, I don't want to share the platform. I won't share the platform, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you if you're cool with them, you're against me. That's childish ass shit, man. And that shit happens all the fucking time in the atheist community.
Well,
like,
and it also takes a fuck of a lot to get to that point with me. Like, it really does.
Oh, I'll admit it doesn't take much.
For you,
it takes a lot of
with me.
It takes a lot of little stuff. It takes a lot of little things, but big major things it doesn't take a lot for me.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. It takes a fuck of a lot to get to that point for me. Like, if I say that, then chances are there's a lot of reasons why. But we have gotten to the shill second. We're in our last 15 minutes, and it usually takes us that long to say goodbye.
Yeah, I know, right? Shit.
So what do you have coming up on Friday?
Tomorrow, well, no, not Friday. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central, I will be on the Sacrilege podcast and channel. And Zach and I have been friends 4 or 5 years now. We've gone back and forth on each other's shows a lot. Nice guy. We occasionally bounce back and forth. We're going to be talking about policing the atheist community, actually, and probably a whole bunch of other shit. I am going to be releasing a video on anti-theism versus anti-harm and why I'm not an anti-theist sometime this week. And Friday, I will be having Dr. Daryl Ray on to continue the conversation I had with Ocean about latent Christianity, but instead of
that is 7 layers deep in polytheism, but it's hilarious.
That's like more polytheism. I'm like, yep, not my fucking realm, gotta go.
Ocean, by the way, has changed his name on Twitter to Ocean the Bar.
If you guys watch that interview with Ocean and I, right before the intro sets, he's got his camera upside down, and you can take a look on my face and realize I am 100% done with his shit before we even started. I was just 100% done at that point with his bullshit. But instead of pointing out more issues with latent Christianity like Ocean and I did, I'm going to be bringing Dr. Daryl Ray on to talk about working through some of the latent indoctrination issues. Daryl Ray works for and was one of the founders of Recovering from Religion. So if anybody has seen, the fucking scale of this, it's him. And we're going
amazing.
We're going to be talking about ways to keep that latent indoctrination in check and move past it. So this can go for anyone. This can go for atheists coming out of faiths. This can go for polytheists, pagans, Wiccans coming out of their prior faiths and not carrying the Jesus in the suitcase. Ocean. Mm-hmm. I'm crediting you, you fucker. Ocean did the Jesus in the suitcase thing. But so you don't keep carrying that piece of luggage. So we're going to discuss ways of working past that. Dr. Daryl Ray and I also both do sex education. So, and part of latent indoctrination is a lot of purity culture. So the both trained
to Memory Land will be
this is full going.
Full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. Dr. Daryl Ray was actually one of the founders of the show Secular Sexuality. So
that's cool.
Yeah, he's Daryl's
and then
great.
We've got you've got something big coming out on Thursday too.
I guess I'm releasing it Thursday.
Thursday or Friday, either one.
Friday I got the interview, so it would be Thursday. I'm going to be doing a video on anti-theism versus anti-harm and why I'm not an anti-theist and discussing the differences.
Which is going to be a definitional video.
Yes, so it's going to be educational and definitional. Granted, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not scripted, because when I'm scripted, it very much comes off as scripted for me. It's going to be just me sitting here bullshitting. So it's not going to be like, I'm going to read you out of a dictionary. No, it's not.
It makes me wonder how I do with my scripts. Because, I've been told that it doesn't sound
like natural. I just don't. I've never done well. Like, if you look at my Atheist Day 2020 speech, you can obviously tell it was scripted. Like, it was like, it's... Wait, are we calling Ocean a boobarian or me a boobarian?
I think you're the boobarian. Also...
I have a barian name. I'm excited.
So, on Thursday, I'm going to be releasing my Why is Respect Essential for Allyship video. I thought about naming it an open letter to anti-theists.
Great fucking script, by the way. Seriously.
I worked so freaking hard on
I know, I'm so proud of you.
And you saw it in its older iteration, too. So, when I cleaned it up, that shows you the power of editing. But yeah, it is like I'm debating whether to call it why is respect essential for allyship or an open letter to anti-theists, because like that's kind of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It basically focuses on we share more than we don't. I understand, but let's sit down and have a conversation about why these behaviors are a problem and how much more we could get done if you stopped.
Yeah.
So that's what the upcoming video is going to be. I'm pretty excited for it. Like Ocean and I are doing a pagan bar crawl, as far as I know. He's got something exciting coming out, but I don't know if he's officially announced it yet, so I'm not going to mention.
Yeah, so let's not do that. I'm trying to get Fred over.
I'm not going to announce anything for him. But that's going on, and then on Monday we've got Nervardia coming on, which I'm really, really excited about.
We do have Nervardia coming on. This is Fred who's fighting me right now.
So as far as we know, we have Nervardia coming on. Now, Nervardia has a variable job because she takes care of individual clients, so sometimes she gets called in. If that happens, then we'll let you guys know, and we'll find another
we'll
topic
figure
to
it
do
out.
for our I mean, chances are we could shoot the shit on all kinds of things. There are things we wanted to get to tonight that didn't happen, but that's happening. And then the following week, you got we are bringing Maddie on from Science Side Up.
Yep, we are. And Maddie's pretty awesome, and I know I'm probably going to get the, she's working with a Christian.
Yeah, we're bringing an Episcopalian on who's a climate scientist. So that is incredibly exciting.
But she's a Christian. You know how I visualize that? Do you remember that wife swap Christian lady that
she is a heretic?
Freak the fuck.
And she
no, I'm saying that voice.
I know,
I'm saying that voice.
She's a heretic.
That she's a Christian. Like, I'm picturing people saying that in the crazy Christian lady's voice that was screaming, they're not Christian on fucking Wife Swap. That's exactly how I'm picturing it.
I know, I'm awful.
You're just fucking terrible, Maddie, and that's why we're fucking having you, because we love terrible people.
Maddie gets some credit for banging her head on the wall with me and covering it in her own blood alongside me when I was working on Platonism the other day. Like, you get some love for that. All right, mad props for
Maddie, you're fucking terrible. And that's why we love you, because you, like us, are terrible people, and we fucking love terrible people.
So that's it for my announcements. Do you have anything else that you've got coming up?
Subscribe to my Patreon would be nice.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me too. So I actually started a Patreon. I announced that at the end of our last stream. Thanks to you guys, I've hit my 3rd stretch goal, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome, congratulations.
And was able to get one of those fairly expensive books that I was complaining about.
Yes.
My patrons have officially paid all of my bills for this month, even though I'm only releasing 2 videos on Patreon this month. The second one's the anti-theism video. If you sign up for Patreon, you get a bonus of being in the lowest tiers, get the bonus of being in the end of the video credits. They also get the bonus of getting to see my videos a day early, and there's the Patreon polls for topics when I'm being uncertain and ADHD about things. I'm like, I have too many things I want to do. You guys pick for me. Those who are in the $5 and up tier, you get your name slightly larger on the Patreon scroll wheel, and you also get access to my scripts. So I publish those.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's great. That is awesome.
So $5 and up tiers get access to my scripts, and the $10 and $20 tiers get access to a drawing every month where one of you guys gets to negotiate a topic with me. I say negotiate because there are some topics that I don't feel I can cover, and I will not cover drama generally unless I feel I have to. But if there's a person that you really want me to go after, or if there's a topic that you're just dying to hear on.
Yeah, if there's someone that's just being fucking ridiculous.
I am doing a Patreon-only video that is exclusive to Patreon for a week every month. And then goes live on YouTube on a bonus day. That video is not charged for. That is a bonus to my patrons. The $20 tier currently doesn't have any extra bonus stuff apart from your name being bigger and my eternal gratitude, but I'm working on better rewards for the highest tiers. But currently the $10 and $20 tiers are in that drawing to get to pick a topic.
I'm cheap. My tiers are like 1, 3, and 5, and I can't remember what the fuck my tiers do. But they're like $1, $3, $5. Like, and I don't charge monthly. I charge per creation. So if I charge per
creation as well, but I only charge for 4 creations a month, period.
Yeah, that's my max. Like, if I don't put out a pre-recorded, and that doesn't include my interviews, if I don't put out a pre-recorded video, you don't get charged that week. So, and I have a tendency to have hard executive dysfunction, so you may not be charged once a week from.
So, but yeah, as far as that goes, if you guys are interested in helping support, especially my highly curated edited stuff, my heavy deep dives, like that Athenian, that video that I did on the Athenian festival calendar on the new year, I may have only used 3 books, but one of them cost me over $80 to get because it was published in the 80s and has not been republished since.
Oh, wow.
So like when I'm digging into stuff, you know, I have monthly subscriptions that I have to pay for things like the pro version of JSTOR because I go through more than 100 articles in a month. Even if I only cite 10, I probably read 30. This is a thing that Jen has heard me complained about. And
Hold on, I think we have a kid intrusion because you know we can't go an episode with that one.
So if you guys are interested in helping me out, there's no pressure to do so, but if you do so, I will be incredibly grateful. Thank you guys again for supporting us. Thank you guys again for coming back to Xenia Bridge and hanging out with us, even though it's just the 2 of us this week. We'll be doing the same thing at the end of next month, but we've got 3 awesome freaking guests, or 4 awesome guests lined up for next month. We have, we've also got a special surprise guest coming on later on in the month that we're going to be excited to talk about. So, but yeah, thank you guys again for joining us.
Thank you guys for coming out. I might be a little late in the Discord because I just need to kind of sit for a bit after. It's goddamn this fucking mic. I need
Jen the Boobarian is determined to slaughter her mic.
Fucking slaughter my mic. After having a talkative 8-year-old in an inflatable pool for 5 fucking hours and then doing a show, I need a little bit of breath. So I'll be in, just not immediately.
So again, thank you guys again, and remember, we're stronger together.